Strikes from Russia has the current president of Ukraine, Zelensky, to be apprehensive on certain areas with nuclear power plants. With enough damage, the United Nations also fear that the power plants could be triggered to release radiation akin to the Chernobyl incident. Welcome to the End of the World channel, where we discuss the latest global issues and various news. Today, we're tackling the recent nuclear risks that are threatening not only Ukraine, but its neighboring countries as well. With Russia still invading several cities in Ukraine, this has threatened the public health of both countries, as power plants have been put at a risk. If a mishap is triggered by the offensive lines of Russia, people are fearing that there might be another incident that could be compared to what happened in Chernobyl. But before we head straight into the issue, let us know what you think. Do you think Putin is the type of world leader who will take the encouragement of his enthusiasts on another nuclear war? What do you think will happen if they let the nuclear weapons loose during their conflict with Ukraine? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. People are fearing another Chernobyl incident, but do we think their assumption is realistic? To truly know the answer to this, why don't we refresh our memories on what really happened in Chernobyl and what were the casualties afterwards? The infamous nuclear incident happened in 1986, when the flood reactor was mishandled by its staff and has consequently released atomic radiation not only in Ukraine, but different parts of Europe as well. About 250,000 people evacuated from the nearby areas, but it was too late, as it already caused the residents terminal illnesses such as thyroid cancer from the radiation exposure. Chernobyl has become a recent ghost town, as the remnants of the nuclear accident still remains and is still a public health concern. Since the power plant in Chernobyl has been shut down, people have been apprehensive regarding the handling of nuclear energy, as it gravely scarred the country before. 2 people were initially killed in the explosion of the power plant, while 1,000 deaths followed after getting a disease caused by the radiation. The Chernobyl incident has been labeled as one of the worst disasters involving nuclear energy. The International Atomic Energy Agency has been reporting that power plants are being shaken from the crossfire between Ukraine and Russia's military troops. IAEA head Rafael Grossi has stated that they must immediately stop from conducting battlegrounds in the areas of Zaporizhia so that they would not create another incident like the Chernobyl accident. While the infamous power plant incident was caused by the mishandling of inexperienced staff, that doesn't mean that it would not happen in the midst of battle between the military forces of Ukraine and Russia. As of now, the damage that has been done in the nuclear plants in Zaporizhia are not enough to impose nuclear safety and security risks. There are currently watchdogs stationed at the nuclear plants, while the UN has been tagging the location as a zone that should not be struck. This is to ensure the safety of both countries, as it not only threatens Ukraine, but could spread like wildfire to the other countries nearby as well. Amidst all of this, Putin's resolution to cease the strikes would be for Ukraine to hand over the power plants under Russian control. But Zelensky has stated this order to be null and void. Hearing news about nuclear weapons and bombs being dropped is no light topic at all. So before you get your head wrapped around the morbidity of it all, why don't you take a moment to relax? While you're on it, click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so we can deliver you the latest news. Back to the topic at hand. The power plants being attacked in the midst of the Ukraine war isn't the only thing that has been causing a potential nuclear disaster. Analysts only think that Russia's propagandists have been advising a nuclear war because the invasion in Ukraine has been failing as of late. Aside from their struggle to infiltrate the cities of Ukraine, they have also been facing an economic crisis of their own due to the sanctions that Western countries have been imposing. Perhaps this is why there is also some form of internal conflict between propagandists and pundits on whether Putin should start a nuclear war. At the beginning of Russia's conflict with Ukraine, Putin has hinted at the release of their various weapons of destruction and has explicitly stated that he is not joking. However, after the failure to invade Ukraine, Putin has not been expressing the same sentiments. So far, there have only been isolated cases of loyalists threatening to unload nuclear weapons on Ukraine, but no threats from Putin's mouth himself. With these pieces of information in mind, is it reasonable to assume that the nuclear weapons being threatened to be released will be akin to a power plant mishap? The Chernobyl disaster could only be a point of reference for the casualties that the nuclear weapons could cause. But we have to remember that nuclear bombs and nuclear reactors are different. What differentiates Japan's Nagasaki and Hiroshima from Chernobyl? Why are those two Japanese cities livable now, but Chernobyl remains a ghost town? Nagasaki and Hiroshima were devastated from nuclear bombings. However, they are active cities now, because what happened there was not long-lasting damage compared to the power plant mishap in Chernobyl. Most of the nuclear molecules in the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing were spread out in the atmosphere, and nuclear reactors releases more radioactive byproducts than nuclear weapons. So while Chernobyl continues to struggle with radioactive materials that the accident has left, Nagasaki and Hiroshima almost has no trace of the bombings in the present. This is not to say that the nuclear bombs did not heavily impact Japan. In fact, they lost 140,000 citizens in the day of the bombing. All this says is that while nuclear bombings have a large-scale impact, they are not as long-lasting as the power plant mishandling in Chernobyl. This might be why the Russian propagandists know that their threat will not affect Russia despite their close proximity to Ukraine. Nuclear bombings can still be somehow controlled, including the scope of the area it's meant to damage, while what happened to Chernobyl was completely out of the hands of the Ukrainians at that time. The standstill in areas like Zaporizhia is not the only threat that has been looming over both countries for a possible large-scale radiation exposure. Russia has been hinting at a possible release of weapons of mass destruction right off the bat when they declared an invasion on Ukraine. But this only proves to be empty words so far, as Putin has not been using these weapons even after their failure to invade various areas in Ukraine, after Zelensky has set forward a counteroffensive. As the Russian-Ukraine conflict has been putting a lot on the line, such as the well-being of both their citizens and the public health of even their neighboring countries, we could only hope it does not resort to a nuclear disaster. While both countries have been giving their all to outstand the other, several agencies have been urging both world's leaders from the conflict to use their reasoning and not compromise areas that have sensitive nuclear power plants. With the power plants in the midst of their conflict, the damages are not only going to affect lives, but may create another ghost town like the Chernobyl if ever the release of radiation becomes inevitable. The citizens who are affected in this almost year-long war could only hope that the world leaders' judgments are not clouded by the war and they still have the repercussions in mind. Well, would hate to say goodbye, but we're afraid that's it for today's video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Click the notification bell so you'll know when our next video drops. Thanks for watching.